It started as a numbness in my left hand. I thought it was just a cramp, or maybe the after effect of sleeping awkwardly. But the numbness didn't fade. It spread, slow and insidious, like a cold, dead thing crawling beneath my skin, like ice creeping up my wrist, coating my veins in a glaze I couldn't shake or explain. The fingertips tingled at first, pins and needles, and then burned, sharp and raw. My nails began to peel, flaking off in thin, paper-white shards that left tender, angry skin beneath. I told myself if was nothing. Too many hours at the computer, bad circulation, anything but the truth. But the sensation deepened, a crawling, writhing feeling beneath the flesh that was impossible to ignore. Unable to sleep one night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. A strange flicker caught my eye, my left hand lying palm face up on the blanket. The skin seemed to ripple, like water disturbed by a breeze. A subtle twitch beneath the surface, like something alive struggling to break free. I froze, heart pounding so loud I feared it might burst. The skin on my palm stretched tight, then slackened, as if breathing on its own. My fingers twitched uncontrollably, curling into an unnatural claw-like shape. The hand looked alien, something not mine. A sickening wave of panic surged through me. My body was betraying me. Days passed, but time felt like it dragged. Each morning I awoke heavier, slower, haunted by the creeping change. The numbness spread from hand to forearm, wrapping around my veins like a poison. My skin dulled, losing its warm flesh tone, turning pale gray, mottled with bruises that shifted if I stared too long. I stopped trusting my reflection. Mirrors became my enemy. They betrayed me with glimpses of a stranger slowly swallowing my own face. At work, I wore long sleeves to hide the discoloration and swelling. Colleagues gave me concerned glances, whispers following me down hallways. I excused myself often to the restroom, gripping the sink so tightly my knuckles turned white, staring at my distorted reflection. Scaly patches spreading beneath the skin like a spreading stain. The nights were torture. I woke often, drenched in sweat, to the sounds of my own bones creaking, cracking, reshaping in the dark. Sometimes, I found myself scratching frantically, trying to peel away the toughening skin that was growing in patches like armor plates. My nails thickened, curving into sharp, hooked claws that clicked against my desk when I absent-mindedly tapped. The gray patches hardened into scales, cracked, and oozed black fluid that reeked of rust and burnt metal. My hand twitched, sometimes flexed with a mind of its own, reaching out as if sensing prey. One evening, alone in the cold silence of my apartment, the whispers began. Faint at first, like dead leaves rustling in the wind, but growing louder, a low, guttural hiss beneath the surface of my skin. My arms seemed to have a voice, speaking in a language I couldn't understand but felt deep in my bones. I screamed into my pillow, trying to drown out the voices, but they only grew louder. They promised release, power, freedom, if only I would let go, give in to the transformation. My dreams twisted into feverish nightmares. I saw myself unraveling, limbs stretching, bones twisting, my face melting into a grotesque, unrecognizable thing. I was no longer me, but a vessel for something ancient and malevolent, an echo from a nightmare I could not escape. The transformation spread. The scales crawled from my hand, up my arm, over my shoulder, then across my chest. My muscles ached as they reshaped. Denser, more alien. Bone ridges pushed beneath the skin, jagged spines piercing through my shirt, tearing it apart. My breathing grew labored. Each breath was a struggle, lungs constricted by the cruel new growth pressing against my ribs. The mirror showed a monster, half human, half reptilian, with eyes black and glossy like obsidian, the whites tinged with angry red veins. I sought help, but found none. Friends stopped calling. I ignored calls from family. I was a pariah, cursed and abandoned. The whispers mocked me, telling me I was shedding my humanity, becoming something eternal, something not of this world. I became a prisoner inside my own body. One night, the change accelerated. I woke to a terrible, tearing sensation beneath my ribs. I reached to touch the pain and felt sharp, jagged bone pushing outward beneath the skin. The skin stretched, cracked open, revealing ridges of blackened bone growing like grotesque armor. My chest was breaking apart. The pain was unbearable, waves of agony that made me scream until my throat was raw and bloodied. Days blurred together. I lived in a haze of exhaustion, pain, and terror. My left arm twitched uncontrollably, claws scraping the floor. The whispers were no longer just sounds. They became commands, voices demanding I surrender. I fought the voice, clawing at the scales, trying to tear the new flesh from my body, but it was useless. I was losing the battle. Now I sit here, writing these words in the dim light of dawn, knowing my time is almost up. The final fracture is coming, the moment when the last shred of my soul will break, swallowed by the creature that has taken over. If you find this, know that I fought. I was trapped in a prison of flesh and bone, a man becoming a monster. I am no longer myself. I am becoming something else. And soon, I will be gone. A dark patch on my forearm first caught my attention one bleak morning. It looked like a bruise, but with a strange shimmer beneath the surface. Almost iridescent, as if something was trapped under my skin. It didn't hurt at first, only itched a little. A subtle, maddening crawl beneath the flesh that no amount of scratching seemed to ease. Stress? Maybe an allergy. But the patch refused to fade. Instead, it spread. Each day I saw the discoloration grow larger, jagged edges creeping like ink spilled across porcelain. The skin there changed texture. It thickened, growing rubbery, slick with an oily sheen that caught the light unnaturally. When I tried to peel at the edges, my nails scraped against an unyielding surface beneath, like plastic fused to my flesh. The nights were worse. In the dark silence of my apartment, I heard a faint, cracking sound, glass breaking, but deeper, as if something within my bones was fracturing. A crawling sensation slithered beneath the patch, writhing and twisting in a way no infection or rash could explain. I would jerk awake, my heart pounding, sweat chilling my skin, convinced something alive was growing inside me. The patch wasn't alone anymore. Others appeared, creeping across my torso and legs in chaotic patterns. My skin had begun to betray me. It shifted beneath the surface like a second skin, something alive, malignant. My reflection was frightening now. The once familiar face stared back, fractured and distorted, patches twisting and curling across my cheeks and jaw like spreading ink. Parts of my skin cracked open, glistening wet, as if raw flesh peeked through. My eyes, once bright, now looked dull, clouded by the growing darkness beneath my skin. Pain came next. Sharp, jagged pain that flared like fire beneath my ribs and in my limbs. Joints stiffened and clicked, muscles spasmed. My hands were the worst, fingertips swollen, nails splitting and blackening. The skin there cracked, leaking a thick, dark fluid with the coppery scent of blood mixed with something foul, like rot. I stopped eating. Food disgusted me. The thought of swallowing felt impossible, but the patches seemed to feed off me with a slow hunger. Sometimes, I could swear they moved faster when I ignored them, as if impatient. Dreams became nightmares so vivid I dreaded closing my eyes. I saw myself unraveling, my skin sloughing off in thick, wet sheets, revealing raw muscle and brittle bone beneath. I crawled through endless corridors made of flesh, chased by creatures wearing my face but twisted into monstrous parodies. I would wake screaming, my sheets soaked in sweat, heart hammering in my chest. My friends stopped calling. My phone went unanswered. I became a ghost to the people I once knew, my voice a distant echo in an empty room. I was becoming a ruin, a walking carcass of flesh and bone. The transformation stole my voice next. My throat felt tight, constricted, as if my vocal cords were being strangled from within. Breathing became a labored task, lungs burning, ribs aching under the weight of something growing inside. The patches crept higher, climbing my neck, invading my face. One morning, I barely recognized myself. The patches pulled my skin tight, distorting my mouth into something wider, teeth sharper and more numerous. My tongue thickened, clumsy and foreign. The whispers started then, soft, venomous murmurs beneath my breath. They promised relief from the agony, power beyond human limits, freedom from the prison of flesh. I wanted to believe them. I wanted the pain to stop. But the whispers twisted my mind, making me doubt everything, my memories, my identity, my sanity. The line between me and the creeping skin blurred. I fought back desperately, cutting away the worst patches with razors, burning them with flame. The wounds healed instantly, leaving angry, scarred marks. The skin beneath hardened into grotesque armor, scales black and jagged like shattered glass. The patches pulsed and throbbed, alive and sentient. I could feel them burrowing deeper, expanding their reach. My limbs ached as my body warped. Bones cracked and reshaped, muscles thickened with unnatural strength, fingers clawed at the air uncontrollably. My reflection no longer resembled a man. The whispers turned to commands. Surrender. Join us. Become one with the fracture. My hands, swollen and grotesque, reached out on their own accord. The thickened skin crept up my arms, biting into flesh, dragging me closer to something unthinkable. I sit now, trapped within this grotesque prison of fractured skin, writing these words with trembling alien fingers. The patches move beneath my flesh, like a living map of decay and corruption. I am no longer myself. If you find this, stay away. The curse spreads like wildfire, contagious, insatiable. It feeds on flesh and soul alike, and it will find you. I'd never noticed the drainage tunnel behind the factory before. It was hidden by rusted fencing and smothered in weeds, the ground littered with broken bottles and scrap metal. The air there always felt heavier, like the city had forgotten about it, or maybe decided to ignore it. That evening, the fading light slanted between buildings, catching something pale and curved in the shadows. I stepped closer and saw the tunnel's opening, a perfect black circle bored into the concrete. A rusted grate lay half collapsed in the mud, its bars bent outward as if something had pressed from the inside. Not rust-eaten, corroded by something else entirely, leaving the metal frosted with a strange crystalline crust. The mouth of the tunnel exhaled a wet breath. My phone light barely pushed a few feet into the dark before being swallowed. The walls within glistened as though slicked with oil, but the air carried no sewer stench, only a sharp, electric tang, the kind that makes the back of your teeth ache. When something touched my ankle, I thought it was just weeds, but the texture was wrong. Smooth, taut, almost warm. A thin, nearly invisible strand curled around my shoe, then tightened. My instinct was to kick free, but the line bit into the leather with startling ease. I staggered back, pulling hard. The strand snapped, but not cleanly. It recoiled like a severed nerve, leaving behind a shallow, stinging cut along my leg. By the time I reached my apartment, the skin there was flushed and tight, heat radiating up my calf. That night, the itch began, not on the surface, but deep under the skin. I dug my nails into it until blood welled, but the relief was fleeting. Under the light, I saw something. Hair-thin filaments crisscrossing beneath the wound, reflecting silver when the angle caught right. By morning, the filaments had spread from the cut. They ran like veins, branching with unnerving symmetry across my calf. The skin above them looked strangely smooth, as if stretched taut over something new beneath. When I touched it, I swore I felt a faint vibration. Days passed, and the patterns grew, climbing my thigh, curling over my hip. They were no longer hair-thin. They'd thickened into tiny cords that flexed when I moved. I could feel them during every step, subtly guiding the motion of my muscles. On the fourth day, I woke to find them climbing my left arm. My shoulder ached, not like muscle pain, but like a joint being realigned. The skin above my ribs had grown translucent in patches, and beneath I could see the lattice work clearly, not random, but woven, as though someone had engineered it to brace and reinforce my frame. The itching was gone now. In its place was a deep, satisfying hum that resonated through my bones. I noticed it most at night, lying still, the sensation of something alive inside me, working, building. Then came the changes in my senses. My hearing sharpened to the point where I could track the hum of my refrigerator from across the apartment. I could hear the neighbors moving 2 floors up, hear water slithering through pipes inside the walls. My eyes began to ache in bright light, but in the dark, I could see almost perfectly. By the second week, the filaments had reached my neck. They wrapped around my jaw, curling behind my ears. My voice changed, deeper, resonant, like it carried an echo. Speaking became rare. Listening felt more important. Sometimes my hands moved on their own, fingers stretching wide, curling slowly, as if testing the range of the new structure within. The lattice wasn't just replacing me. It was learning me. On the 9th night, I dreamt of the tunnel again, but I wasn't standing outside. I was deep inside, where the walls pulsed with glistening threads that vanished into the dark. Fluid dripped steadily from them, pooling at my feet. I felt something pulling me forward, not with force, but with inevitability. I woke with my mouth open, strands unfurling from my throat. They hung in the air for a moment, before retracting back down. There was no pain, only the sense that my body had performed some necessary function without asking me. By now, my reflection was wrong in ways I couldn't easily explain. My posture had shifted, shoulders drawn back unnaturally, spine subtly curved. My eyes didn't blink together anymore, one always a fraction of a second behind. The skin on my hands split that morning. Not bleeding, the flesh parted cleanly to let the lattice emerge. Thick cords of filament coiled out, then burrowed back in, leaving a faint trail of moisture across my palm. I haven't been to work in days. I keep the blinds closed. The hum inside me is louder now, constant and layered, a chorus rather than a single note. And beneath it, faint but unmistakable, there's a message. It isn't in words, it's in shapes, patterns, instructions. The lattice is not an infection. It's a blueprint, and it is nearly complete. Last night, I felt my ribs shift. They spread apart, just slightly, to make room for something pressing from within. The cords there now pulse like the neck of some unseen animal, rhythm matching the beat in my head. When I touch my chest, I no longer feel a heartbeat. I feel the hum. The window glass rattled. I knew why. Something large passed by outside, and I felt its presence through the lattice. Not sight, not sound, connection. Others are out there. I'm almost ready to join them. I think about the tunnel constantly. My legs ache to take me there. Though they no longer ache from fatigue, they ache from restraint. The lattice in my calves tightens whenever I resist. Soon, I'll go back. Not to explore, not to escape, to connect. And when I do, I'll finally see the thing at the center, the shape all these threads are building toward. And maybe then I'll understand what I've become.